The key is seeing a truth that's been hidden from our view and bringing it to light. And yeah, and so it's tender and deep work, and people need to know that's what they're getting themselves into, right?
Well, hello and welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. And we are continuing our series on the coaches that don't suck. So, of course, Darla LeDoux needed to join me on this episode. Darla, welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. We had such a great conversation when I had you on my show, so I'm so excited.
I know. And okay, so our whole background, dear listener, is Darla and I met through a mutual connection that we both just absolutely adore. And she was like, I feel like, Amanda, you should know Darla. And said the same thing to Darla. And so I wound up on her podcast, and now we're talking here. I couldn't agree more. I think we know several people from the coaching industry in common, but we've not worked together at this time. But I've been following her on her socials, and my goodness, this lady has such a reputation. So Darla, can you just take 30 seconds and introduce yourself to everyone so they know why you're so famous and ready to be here on the show?
So I'm Darla LeDoux. I call myself a recovering engineer. And so I'm an unlikely advocate for your intuition and your magical gifts as a coach, because I was good at math and science, and they said, you're good at math and science, you should be an engineer. And I blindly said, okay, I don't even know what that is, but I trust you. I don't trust myself. So let me go do that. And my story's been kind of dismantling that and learning to trust myself and my guidance. And I love the work of coaching. I'm so grateful to be a part of, I think I see us as a part of this change, Amanda, of, shifting the consciousness on the planet. So
I love that. I was a couple minutes late, dear listener, to the recording today because I was just finishing an hour-long session on consciousness as part of our high performance program. And I think when I met you, Darla, I just loved how we have so many things in common, and that juxtaposition, I guess, of, allowing intuition, allowing the consciousness, and then also being informed with the sciencey brain and having that engineering side, and finding that beautiful marriage kind of between the two has been a huge part of the experience. So Darla, when you're working with people, first of all, who do you typically work with that you're helping them access this trust of themselves and their knowing?
Yeah, it's interesting. I started out as a career coach because that was my story. And then my clients all, tuned into their soul, and they wanted to quit their jobs and start businesses. So I had to figure out how to run a business and be good at that. And then people started coming up to me on the side and saying, hey, I just really want a business like yours. And the thing I was doing that was different than they were doing was I was hosting retreats. So a lot of the work was being delivered in person on retreats throughout the year. So then I needed to sort out how to help people host retreats. So I niched down further to retreat leaders, transformational guides. And then that really brought me to this place of self-trust, because a powerful retreat leader really is centered and aligned. The circumstances of what happened in group dynamics aren't going to take them out. They can trust themselves and know when to bring truth into the space and when not to, really. And so that evolved into a space of creating a framework to help people know how their divine guidance works so they can trust themselves.
Love this so much. I mean, so much about your story, I'm really getting a lot of validation right now. I'm like, yes, just even for what I'm doing, because I really envisioned the Coaches Plaza to be this place that coaches come together. And whether you're coming in on the ground floor, at the lobby, you might find yourself kind of at this mezzanine where you're kind of looking around, you're realizing, oh, maybe I should specialize in this direction, or maybe there's better alignment if I go focus over here. And all the way up to, the top floor is the CEO leading and guiding other people to basically work the magic, And one of the things I really love about hosting this podcast is that I get to invite people like you who have like a very specific area of expertise that's very different than the programs that we offer. And it's so complementary. Like that's my vision for what the Coaches Plaza is really about, is that there's room and there's space at all levels and all types of what we do. I know there's a lot of people in the Coaches Plaza community who are thinking, I'd love to host a retreat, and they tell themselves a lot of reasons why not. So, but it's speaking to them, and they're not sure if they should listen. So, Darla, like what would you say are the prerequisites, or are there any prerequisites to being a coach who offers retreats?
There's so much in what you said, and I'm just like present to how complementary our work is. So just
I know, right? It was like so cool.
I mean, I knew that before. That's why I had reached out. So, when you're speaking about the different floors and helping people to find their alignment, right? So they can go into their magic and be the CEO. Retreats are such a great way to find your alignment. And I was reflecting on this recently. So much of my work has developed because I had a group in front of me asking me specific questions, and the light bulb went off. I should do this. And I think that so often what gets in the way for people is the marketing and the messaging, right? Like, what is my unique message that's going to get people to want to hire me? And we can often, I know I did this, I would sit alone in my office with my flip chart and my Post-it notes and like try to figure out what my message is. Have you ever done that?
I was just laughing because I'm like, oh my God, have you been in my office? Like, I for sure do that anyway, but I'm also a big geek on the messaging side. And, I want you to continue, but I'm going to put a little pin here. I think one reason why we do that and fester in the messaging is because we're not really sure, and it's kind of a safe place to hang out. So when I'm working with people, I like to push the messaging conversation after the experience of selling and delivering some experience, and just like rely on your sales chops first. And then you get to have, I mean, I don't think you get away with from the Post-it notes and flip charts, but it's way more fun when you know that it's actually progressing the message,
Exactly. I'm so agree with you 1,000%. And when the flip chart has context because you've actually talked to people and you know what they want and need and you've documented the process, then yes, that's the best. So yeah, totally agree. And selling a retreat can be a great way to learn what people want. Delivering a retreat, here's what I love about it. Let's say your first retreat is 6 people. Let's just be conservative, right? Maybe it's 4 people. Like, you've got a tiny group in a room behind closed doors where you're not thinking about, well, how is everybody judging me on the internet? And you're able to show up and deliver and be your best self and serve the people in the room. And I would assert that when in that situation, your magic is going to come through, because you're not censoring it for, is my mother reading this post, or my coach I had 3 years ago, or whatever it may be. And so your best self comes through there. And then the key is to hear what you're saying, have someone write it down, record it. And that's your messaging. Those are your clues. That's what you take to the flip chart.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. You're making me replay actually some events. So I've always hosted events that are like on the smaller side. One could call them a retreat. I would say it's maybe a little bit more of a speaking event. But oh my God, the flip charts, that like the downloads that you get when you're in that, I think you're spot on, the safety of that room, to like just be as fully and authentically expressed as possible. Some of my best frameworks have come out of being in an environment like that. Totally.
Yes. And I would also say everybody's energies, we have the mastermind, right? When 2 or more are gathered. But then I'm a big human design fan. And in human design, we have these open places where we don't have access to the energy. And when you gather a group, there's so much more access to all the different energies and possibilities. So I love that as well.
So I'm not hearing
Amanda,
a
I
lot
love
of,
that you
go ahead.
well, I love that you distinguished, event versus retreat as well,
Mm,
because for me, a retreat doesn't have to have a certain format. You do not need to go to an exotic location. You do not need to risk your firstborn's college fund on a deposit. A retreat is a multi-day experience to me. You could have a 1 day, but I like multi-day, where people will create a new awareness that shifts how they show up to life.
so good.
So there are events that are more teaching, right? Like we're going to
Hmm.
cover content, maybe we're strategizing. And then in my worldview, a retreat is we're really looking at the truth that we've been avoiding. And that's how I help people to design retreats anyway. So
I love that.
you
So
were going to
what
say
role,
something.
and maybe I've already lost it. It's gone. But it's okay. It's all good. I love how organic our conversations get. So I'm just curious, what would you say the role is of things like the venue and like what are maybe some do's and don'ts
Mhm.
that someone might consider? Let's just say they're giving themselves that permission to host that intimate retreat. What would you say are some big do's and don'ts?
Yeah. Well, first I would look at, what's been your experience with selling. So this is where we're aligned. I believe that we do all kinds of things, including book a retreat and then make a big page about it and then make lots of posts about it and then feel sad because no one registered from our posts about it. And like that can be a whole mechanism to avoid the sales conversation too. And so
It's
I
so
would
true.
yeah. I would first just get honest with yourself about how skilled am I at conversations that shift people into action,
Mm,
conversations that help people see their truth and make decisions from that place. Because if we're not doing that, the retreat is not just that, it may not be as effective, because that, to me, that's what we need to do on retreat to bring
mm,
transformation.
mm-hmm.
But aside from that, it is, we need to know ourselves as someone that can move people into action, or we're just going to be, we might journal and do yoga and it's not going to change their life. So I like to say you need to know that you've had, a dozen private clients that you've sold, because that's going to help you know you can sell the retreat. And it's also going to help you know you can deliver it. And I know where I was going to go. It's one thing to sell information, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're just saying, oh, I'm going to teach you this, this, and this. But it's another thing to sell transformation, because that's risky for people. Because when we transform, like the way I teach it, the key is seeing a truth that's been hidden from our view and bringing it to light.
I love that.
And yeah, and so it's tender and deep work, and people need to know that's what they're getting themselves into, right? They don't need to know all the details of everything, but there needs to be an awareness that I have a block of some sort. I don't even like to use that language, but like there's something in the way of me and my goals. There's something I'm
Mm-hmm.
not seeing, and this retreat will help me see it so I can align with my goals. Like if I'm energetically aligned with my goals, it takes care of itself in a lot of ways.
I am totally low key freaking out right now because earlier today I did a story for the Instagram. So this podcast will come out much later, but just know that this happened in the past and it was really freaking cool. I literally was saying my view of the future of coaching is focus. Because information is not transformation. But what we're really starving for, I think, as a society right now is this capacity or this ability to really focus on what is the desire, what is the block that's getting in the way, where is my permission to do the thing. And so often we're not giving ourselves that permission, even if we have that knowing, or even if we have some clarity about the vision for our desire, because we don't give it the focus. And so I'm just like freaking out a little bit right now because I'm like, oh my God, I just posted about this. How perfect are retreats for facilitating like that level of focus and that permission to put your phone down and to be present with the transformation. And, I really loved what you said too, Darla, about the leadership role of the coach. That's kind of how I interpreted that, was just like, gosh, I know I wouldn't have been a very good retreat facilitator at the very, very, very beginning of my coaching journey, because I just hadn't coached enough people yet. I hadn't walked in that leadership role often enough to really know that I would be safe and okay and able to, because it is challenging. Like, can you talk to me a little bit about what some of the challenges you might face as you're facilitating a retreat that, you can maybe start working on now? Even if you don't have your first 12 clients, you can start working on that strength, right?
Yes. Oh my God, I love that question. And I love focus. And I so agree with you. Thanks for naming that. So I'm going to go back to sales calls, because one of the things I teach around sales is that strategy session, discovery call, sample session, however you think about it. I believe that our edge is going to show up in those calls. So I'll give an example. Have a really funny example, which is there was a season where I was having one-on-one conversations, and 2 calls in a row, the person said, I have to ask my accountant. And I had never had anyone have that objection before. And all of a sudden there it was in my face. And so, I had a coach. I always have a coach. So I went to my coach. I'm like, what's this about? And she helped me know how to answer it. But what I learned is I don't have an accountant. If I had an accountant that I had a healthy relationship with, I would know how to answer that, right? So I went and got an accountant, because my coach had said, well, is there an accountant running their business? Like, what is that about? What's the gap there? But because I didn't have any experience with partnering with an accountant, I didn't know how to respond, right? So I've never had that again since I got an accountant.
That's interesting.
We're always generating the mirror for our growth. It's always a win-win. So if you have an edge that you're not wanting to look at, and then you get a group of people in retreat, like, someone's going to be that mirror of that person for you. So then you're the leader, and you've got someone who's got the same blind spot as you, and you're not able to help them see it because you haven't worked on it. So to me, that's where the selling comes in, because you can work a lot of that out in the selling. Like, people will give you the exact objection of the thing you need to work on, and you can work it out in those conversations. So you're increasing your capacity. And this isn't bad. Let's say you're leading a retreat and you've got a blind spot, because guess what? Still have blind spots. I've hosted 115 retreats, and I'm sure next time I'm going to be looking at, oh, wow, I missed that aspect of what was going on in the room because it was in my blind spot. Like, that's okay. That's not bad. But if you're at the place where you're having trouble moving people to say yes to, let's say, a $2,500 coaching package or something like that, you will have trouble leading a room. It's just,
it's so true. I couldn't agree with you more. Like, I feel that over the years, the more I've focused on my leadership in a 360 sort of a way, right? Because I think, a former version of me would hear, oh no, a blind spot. And it's like, I'm completely blind. I can't help anyone, right? That's not it. That's not the vibe.
Yes.
It's recognizing that you as the leader are always on this path of growth. And, the more you coach, the more you sell, the more you're in relationship with others, and you have the meaningful conversations and get below that surface, the better you do get at actually doing the coaching and actually doing the selling. But only if you're learning from it. If you're just kind of regurgitating a script, or you're running through whatever your coaching certification told you, okay, ask this first and then ask this second, you're not really leading, right? You're just following what is on the paper, and you're kind of hoping for the best. And like a real leader, I think, looks at, well, when we failed or when we didn't see something, what might have been going on there? What can I learn from that? What can I do to improve the very next time? So yeah, you never eliminate those blind spots, do you? Just one at a
I
time.
mean, that's the goal. I mean, that's why I love this work because my life gets better every single time I lead a retreat or every time I create a new message. It's like true up yourself to your message over and over.
No
And it's great.
kidding.
I love it.
Yeah. I love it too. Darla, we could do a 3-hour episode, no problem. However, I didn't book you
I
for that
agree.
long. So, what's the best way for folks to follow you?
That is such a good question. I will say, feel free to coach me on this. I have a love-hate relationship with social. I think Instagram is probably the easiest and like
Great.
my content's all there. I will see if you PM me, but otherwise I don't like go on there that much.
That's good. Well, then that's probably the best way to reach you. And I 1000% would say that I love social media, but I used to hate it. So yeah, be social with
You're so
Darla. Show
good. Your posts are good.
Thank you. Well, y'all make sure you reach out to Darla because she's the real. I think anybody who does really struggle with social media, I think part of it is because we're learning our authenticity on a different platform. And so I mean, I do write well now and I'm pretty confident with it. And it took like deciding I wanted to express in that way, and so I'm going to encourage everybody, DM Darla, tell her that you found out about her on this podcast and you're excited to connect with her there, and just say that. And then everybody's going to get some great practice in connecting online.
I love that.
So good.
I feel like I want to say something
Go for it.
related to what you said about leadership and being the leader. And I'm going to connect this to social media and my love-hate relationship, if that's okay.
Do it.
Little
Go
mini.
for it. Let's go.
In the beginning, for a decade, I really wrote long form posts on Facebook for a long time, right? And that was a big way of connecting. And I would also put them in my newsletter. And, I had a kind of an approach. And then I got to a place where I had a blind spot in my own life. Like my personal life wasn't aligned for me. And, I wasn't aware of it and it was in my blind spot, right? So I just want you to know, I had a multi 6-figure business and I had this blind spot. And then I kind of gradually stopped sharing on social because, I'm so committed to being authentic. And so if I am not, and I'm not even aware, I started posting less and less. And then I had to true up my personal life and like so much has changed and come back around to how do I feel about social now and what am I excited about? And so I'm sure you'll see me there more. I mean, I have a podcast. It's not like I'm invisible.
But you're not invisible at all.
I want to normalize the process. I mean, that's my mission, right? Is to normalize transformation. And when we go around thinking that when I'm perfect, I'll post on social, or when I'm perfect, I'll host a retreat, or when I'm perfect, I can help other people, it's not ever going to happen. And like, I feel 100% okay saying like, oh, wow, I was out of alignment in this area and I stopped posting on social because I had this energy barrier. And
I just got a really crazy idea that I did not check in with you on at all. Which is, I just love to have another touch base in maybe like 3 to 6 months on social media, like talking about the role of social media. And maybe that'll be like, if you I didn't vet this with her beforehand, dear listeners. So if you're waiting with bated breath 6 months after, I'm so sorry. But I'm going to put it out as an idea that I would be open to hosting another conversation with you that is very specifically discussing authentic expression in your marketing, in your sales, in your podcasting, like all of those things. If you were open to it, you don't have to say yes right now. I just want to say, I think I'm going to put that invitation out there.
I would love to. I'm a yes to your invitations in general, Amanda. So, and I love that you're creating a container, right? So I can kind of watch my experience with it for 6 months and then we'll report back.
Yeah, exactly. And I want to hear the ugly too. Like, I don't want it to just be all like, oh, and then I started doing social media and then I lived happily ever after, right? Like, we should definitely talk about the challenge of it because I think that that's something that a lot of people are going through. And since you're already up for it, let's just Talk about it. I love it. Okay, listener, if you love this, go ahead and make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one. And also, go ahead and leave a 5-star review. I mean, Darla really showed up today. She's got some wonderful wisdom here. So seriously, like if you really felt like it was good, taking a few seconds to give a 5-star review and, just say a few sentences about what you loved about it, it helps other people find the episode. And that's why I'm always encouraging you to do it. And you can make it super easy for your friends by sharing it with 3 of your friends. Just grab the link of wherever you're listening to this and shoot it to them on the DM, on the text, however you like to. Be that awesome friend, leaving a pebble of joy and love with them. All right. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you on another episode.